Both men and women need prenups. Nobody plans on getting divorced. A prenup is a certainty agreement that defines what happens in case of a divorce. A prenup is not the most romantic thing to do, but you really need it. Chapter 10. Think big and kick ass in business and life. No matter what you do, think big. Thinking big is the driving force that has forged all the great achievements in modern life, from the towering skyscrapers to the amazing discoveries in science, technology, and medicine, to the great industrial and military achievements. Thinking big is behind every successful business, church, and political organization. Thinking big is what creates loving and lasting relationships. I believe that if you focus on the top, you'll get there. Some people have the innate ability to get to the top. They're born champions. Other champions are self-made. Tiger Woods is one of them. So are Michael Jordan and Derek Jeter and Tom Brady and Big Ben Roethlisberger, among others. They use discipline and determination to overcome obstacles and beat the odds. They set their sights on achieving something big. Ordinary would not be enough. They think big and work toward big goals. In a lot of ways, it's easier to do things on a large scale. It's easier to build a skyscraper in Manhattan than it is to buy a bungalow in the Bronx. For one thing, it takes just as much time to close a big deal as it does to close a small deal. You'll endure as much stress and aggravation. You'll have all the same headaches and problems. It's easier to finance a big deal. Bankers would much rather lend money for a big project than for a small one. They're more comfortable investing money in a big, prestigious building than they are in a run-down house in a bad section of town. If you succeed with the big project, you stand to gain a lot more money. The first step to success is to make the leap from being nobody to being somebody. Most people are afraid to think big. They just can't do it. Why? Because they cannot imagine themselves doing big things. They don't have the knowledge, experience, or track record. They have none of the trappings that a successful big-thinking person has. When it comes to thinking big, you are your own worst enemy. Do you believe that thinking big is reserved for people with money, college degrees, family connections, or even intelligence? That's not true. Anyone can think big. The most important thing is the size of your thinking. How big you think determines how big a success you become. Everything else is secondary. The simple act of thinking big immediately distinguishes you from the vast majority of people. So start now. First, find a big goal for yourself. Then mold yourself to become the person who can accomplish that goal. I decided to be a big developer. So I worked at becoming the person who could handle big development projects. I went to Wharton and learned all about finance and money. I studied real estate in my spare time. I worked for 5 years with my father, learning how to make deals and build quality buildings faster and cheaper than anyone else. Then I felt I was ready to take on bigger challenges, so I moved to Manhattan and started my company. I had a big goal, and I took all the steps to become the somebody who could achieve that goal. Walk softly and carry a big attitude. Adopt a big attitude to go with your big thinking. Everything you do in life, do with attitude. I always think of myself as the best-looking guy, and it's no secret that I love beautiful women. That's why I bought the Miss USA and Miss Universe pageants. I love being around beautiful women. My wife doesn't mind because she is the most beautiful woman of all, and she knows I married her because I love her, and I wanted to marry her. I had a choice of staying single or getting married, and I chose to be married. I don't want to be single. I have a bad track record for being married, it's true, but I would rather live a married life than be single. That's because I met the right woman. I've learned something from my previous mistakes. I am determined to do much better in my marriage to Melania. What surprises many people is that beautiful women love me. For the first season of The Apprentice, NBC paid me almost nothing, and nobody expected that it would make it. They wouldn't even waste money on the ink to sign an option agreement with me. One broadcast exec said, "To be successful, large numbers of women would have to watch, and why would women want to watch Donald Trump?" I said, "I've not done so badly with women." As it turned out, the biggest audience for The Apprentice by far is women. The women I have dated over the years could have any man they want. They're the top models and most beautiful women in the world. I've been able to date, screw them all, because I have something that many men do not have. I don't know what it is, but women have always liked it. So guys, be cocky, confident, smart, and humorous, and you will be able to get all the women you want. Geraldo Rivera is a friend of mine, but he did something which I thought was absolutely terrible, and he admits it was a mistake. He wrote a book naming many of the famous women that he slept with. I would never do that. I have too much respect for women in general, but if I did, the world would take serious notice. Beautiful, famous, successful, married, I've had them all. Secretly. The world's biggest names. But unlike Geraldo, I don't talk about it. If I did, this book would sell 10 million copies. Maybe it will anyway. The one thing I have learned with women over the years, they want it, sex, more than we do. We may live in houses in the suburbs, but our minds and emotions are still only a short step out of the jungle. In primitive times, women clung to the strongest males for protection. They didn't take any chances with a nobody, low-status male who did not have the means to house them, protect them, and feed them and their offspring. High-status males displayed their prowess through their kick-ass attitudes. They were not afraid to think for themselves and make their own decisions. They did not give a crap about what other people in the tribe thought. That kind of attitude was and still is associated with the kind of men women find attractive. It may not be politically correct to say, but who cares? It's common sense, and it's true, and always will be. Oftentimes, when I was screwing one of the top women in the world, I would say to myself, thinking about me as a boy from Queens, "Can you believe what I am getting?" The same thing goes for women. When it comes to being an attractive woman, there's no denying that looks are important. Looks alone will not get you the high-quality man you want, or not for very long. Looks are only half the game. You need a big attitude to go with your good looks. A woman's attractiveness has much to do with her attitude about herself. Believe you are valuable and convey that belief in the way you stand, walk, talk, move, and use your eyes. My advice for both men and women is this: believe in yourself and show it in your attitude, and you will be much more attractive to the opposite sex. And if you're gay, nothing changes. It's all about attitude. Use your big thinking attitude for work, for play, and for everything you do in life. Whatever you do, do first class with a big attitude. Some people complain that their life is boring. My life is never boring. If you want more excitement in life, it's up to you to get it. Let's say you're planning a social event. You have a choice. You can plan a modest event, or you can do something big. If you plan something modest and uneventful, that's what you'll get. Plan a social event and do it up big. Boost the excitement level up to top-notch. Go all out to make it bigger than life and over the top. You are what you think you are. Most people think too little of themselves and devalue their own abilities. They give other people credit for being a lot smarter than they really are, and downplay their own intelligence. Reverse this. Give yourself credit for being smarter than most other people, because it's true. Let that be reflected in your attitude about yourself. Everybody talks about George Clooney and how good-looking he is, but when I met him for drinks recently with the great Florida developer George Perez, I was surprised at how little and short he was. He was very nice, but much different in stature than I thought, much different from his image. He looks much bigger on screen. Another one who's very different from her image is Angelina Jolie. For some reason, I find her to be not good-looking in any way, and yet the press fawns over her. I'm pretty good when it comes to looks, and certainly she is not a bad-looking woman, but she is no beauty. Perception is very important. The perception is that she's a great beauty. The fact is, she's not. Oftentimes, perception is more important than fact. In her case, it is. People take their cues from you as to how they should think about you. Your attitude about yourself is visible to everyone. Develop an attitude that you're worth a lot and others will value you. Walk briskly and purposefully, eyes looking straight ahead, like someone who knows where he or she is going. Define yourself in a big way. We all have self-definitions. Give yourself a big definition. Instead of a marketing manager, define yourself as a marketing manager on the way to becoming marketing vice president. Instead of a builder of single-family homes, define yourself as a builder of single-family homes on the way to becoming a multi-unit developer. Instead of a law assistant, define yourself as a law assistant on the way to becoming a law partner. Instead of an accountant, define yourself as an accountant on the way to becoming a financial vice president. Display a big-thinking attitude that shows you're an active, enthusiastic, decisive, efficient, committed, important person who believes in him or herself. You are someone who wins promotions, clients, friends, someone who is moving up in life, and who is sought after for your creative ideas. Your attitude is much more important than your IQ. Big thinkers draw positive conclusions about things. Form the habit of drawing positive conclusions. Start every day thinking, today is a great day. I